What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Off the Schneid. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the 16 NFC teams, their draft needs, picks, additions, subtractions, everything that you're going to need to know to get prepared for next week's NFL draft. First up, we've got the Dallas Cowboys. Offensively, they're pretty much set. They have one of the best offensive lines in the game, a quality wide receiver duo in Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, one of the best running backs in the game, Ezekiel Elliott. The only problem might be if there are any issues with Dak Prescott and his franchise tag. Defensively, they lost some guys on their defensive line as well as corner. Their linebackers can be a bit of a mystery with health being a concern, and they'll look to address that defense in the NFL draft. The Cowboys are in win now mode and will look to make a push in the NFC East. The New York Giants had a coaching overhaul in the offseason, and they'll look to build around second-year quarterback Daniel Jones. They have one of the top running backs in the game, Saquon Barkley, an improving offensive line, and some solid depth at wide receiver with breakout candidate Darius Slayton. If Evan Ingram can stay healthy, the Giants' offense is going to be very potent in 2020. Defensively, they went out and spent some money in free agency, improving at linebacker as well as corner. I see them looking to address defense in the draft next week, and the Giants are my favorite pick to go from worst to first in their division come 2020. We haven't seen repeat champs in the NFC East since the Eagles did it in 2003 and 2004, so it's pretty easy for me to say that they regress in 2020. Defensively, they improved, trading for Darius Slay and adding Javon Hargrave in free agency. The only issue with that defense is going to be at linebacker, which they'll likely address in next week's draft. Offensively, they're going to need to add some pieces on the O-line and add some playmakers at wide receiver to help out Carson Wentz. I see this team having a good shot at repeating as champs in the NFC East. The Washington Redskins are going to have a very strong defense in 2020. With Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, and the likely drafting of Chase Young next week, as well as their off-season acquisitions on the back end, the Redskins are going to be a tough team to score on in 2020. Offensively, we're going to need to see Dwayne Haskins take a step forward next year. The offensive line needs addressing in the draft, but they've got some quality playmakers at wide receiver, including Steven Sims, Kelvin Harmon, and Scary Terry. If Bryce Love or Darius Guice can stay healthy, as well as the ageless wonder Adrian Peterson, the Redskins are going to surprise some teams this year. The Chicago Bears lost some quality players from their defense this offseason. They went out and signed Robert Quinn and Artie Burns to help ease that pain. They still have Roquan Smith, Khalil Mack, and the University of Regina product, Akeem Hicks. Offensively, they got a number one receiver in Allen Robinson and a good 1-2 punch at running back with Tariq Cohen and David Montgomery. We'll see who wins the quarterback battle between Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles, but I don't see the Chicago Bears competing for the NFC North or the playoffs in 2020. The Detroit Lions went out and added players on all three phases of their defense in the offseason, including former Patriots Danny Shelton and Jamie Collins. On offense, Matt Stafford was having an MVP caliber campaign last year before getting hurt. They've got a true number one receiver in Kenny Golladay, a solid complement in Marvin Jones, and Danny Amendola, and last year's first-round pick TJ Hawkinson. They've got an improving offensive line, and I see them addressing running back in the draft. They've got a ton of draft capital, and I could see them improving from their record in 2019. The Green Bay Packers will look to repeat as champs in Matt LaFleur's second year as head coach. They've got a Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, two very good running backs in Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, an above-average offensive line, and a top-tier wide receiver in Devontae Adams. We're going to need to see a step forward for second-year receivers Allen Lazard and tight end Jay Sternberger, but they should have a quality offense in 2020. On defense, they're solid on the back end. They got the law firm of Smith & Smith, but they're going to need some help for Kenny Clark on that defensive line. There's a very good chance that the Packers repeat as champs at the NFC North next season. The Minnesota Vikings window may have slammed shut on them over the offseason, with key losses on the back end at corner as well as the defensive line. The offense runs through Dalvin Cook, who showed some serious wear towards the end of last season. The offensive line is very good, but they're going to need to add some playmakers at wide receiver. There's been a lot of talk between the Vikings and the Browns on a trade for Odell Beckham Jr., but nothing's materialized as of right now. They've got a ton of draft capital, but I see a serious regression for the Minnesota Vikings come 2020. The window is still wide open for the Atlanta Falcons. With the addition of Todd Gurley, you always have a shot with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. Hayden Hurst should fill in just fine for Austin Hooper, and the offensive line should be better than last season. On defense, there's a glaring hole at cornerback, but they've got underrated linebackers in Olukun and Deion Jones. I see them getting help on the defensive line for Fowler, Takk McKinley, and Grady Jarrett. The NFC South should be one of the most competitive divisions next year. The Carolina Panthers have some quality playmakers on offense, including all-pro running back Christian McCaffrey, wide receivers DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Curtis Samuel. And at just 27 years old, Teddy Bridgewater could still be the quarterback of the future for the Carolina Panthers. On the defensive side, however, they lost some key pieces on the defensive line, and with the retirement of Luke Kuechly, the Panthers are going to have a tough time keeping points off the board. We'll see how it shakes down, but I don't see a very good first year for Joe Brady and Matt Rule. The New Orleans Saints are one of the most complete rosters in the NFL and are the only team to have a representative in all of my top 10s. They brought in Emmanuel Sanders to help out Michael Thomas and brought back two-time Super Bowl winner Malcolm Jenkins. I'm nitpicking with my team needs, and I don't see them having any issues filling those needs with their limited draft capital. You can bet that the New Orleans Saints are going to be one of the top contenders to be Super Bowl champs in 2020. With the addition of TB12, the Tampa Brady Buccaneers look to be contenders in the NFC this season. They've got the number one wide receiver duo in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, two very good tight ends in Cameron Brate and OJ Howard, and an improving offensive line. The defense is stacked with the exception of corner, which they'll look to address in the draft. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers look to represent the NFC in this year's Super Bowl. The Arizona Cardinals will have a formidable defense in 2020. They use free agency to shore up their front seven, complementing the playmakers they already have on every level of the defense. Offensively, Kyler Murray and Kenyon Drake will look to take a leap in their second year with the team. They added Nuke Hopkins to complement first ballot Hall of Famer Larry Fitzgerald and young playmaker Christian Kirk. The offensive line is okay, and they'll look to shore up any holes in next week's draft. The Redbirds will certainly build on their win total from 2019. The LA Rams are a shell of the team we saw compete in the Super Bowl in 2018. They still have playmakers on offense in Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Tyler Higbee, with difference makers on defense including Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, and John Johnson. But with the amount of holes I see on this roster, I expect the Rams to regress to the back of the pack in the NFC West. The San Francisco 49ers lost a couple of key pieces from their Super Bowl appearing team in 2019. They traded DeForest Buckner to the Colts for a first-round pick and lost Emmanuel Sanders to free agency. But with their three-headed backfield, Jimmy Garoppolo, George Kittle, and Deebo Samuel, their offense should be just fine in 2020. They still have one of the most formidable front sevens in football and a more than complimentary backfield. With their solid draft capital, I expect the 49ers to be favorites to appear in the Super Bowl once again in 2020. The Seattle Seahawks quietly filled some holes in the offseason, signing tight end Greg Olsen and adding some depth on the offensive line. They've got one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, Russell Wilson, two solid running backs, depth at wide receiver, and a superstar in the making, DK Metcalf. They absolutely had to retain Jarran Reed and should be able to maintain their identity on defense with leaders Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright. The Seahawks should once again flirt with the Super Bowl in 2020. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. And if you like what you saw, do me a favor, like, subscribe, comment, share, anything to get this channel out there. I really appreciate it. Look forward to some more content coming at you shortly.